Hello there guys, welcome back to another video on the barn find 1979 BMW E12 520. If you can hear the rain, I do apologise. I am basically in a tin can, so yeah, apologise about that. It's absolutely pouring outside. Kind of grateful I still have the garage for the time being actually. So where did we leave off last time? So you probably saw the video of me completely stripping down, cleaning and rebuilding the old carburetor, and yeah, it's a thing of beauty now. It looks so much better. The throttles are so much freer. Everything seems to be moving a lot smoother. So it's time to get this, of course, reinstalled back onto the engine. Now, the engine, you're probably wondering, why is the rocker cover off? Why can we see inside the cylinder head? That is because I have just adjusted all of the valve clearances. So when I initially got this thing started up, I didn't have a feeler gauge to hand. I have now got a feeler gauge, a metric one, and all of the valves, both the intake and the exhaust, all have to be adjusted to 0.25 millimeters, and that's exactly what I've done. So everything should now be a lot better. Essentially it should run a lot smoother, and there should not be any tapping from the valve train. So I think what we'll do is get the rocker cover and the gasket reinstalled. I'll get all of the spark plugs reinstalled as well, and then of course we can get the rebuilt carb back on as well. Now, not only have I rebuilt the carb, but I've also taken off all of the throttle linkage as well. As you can see, that's probably down there. That was all pretty nasty and stiff. It wasn't returning how it should, so I've taken pretty much everything off that I can, thoroughly cleaned everything up, and of course everything will go back together nicely, he says. As always though, do remember to give this video a like. It really does help me out. It lets me know that you want to see more videos on this car. But without further ado, let's get cracking and let's try and get this thing fired up again today. And fingers crossed it fires up better than it did last time. We'll see anyway. The carburetor is now back in its place. Also reconnected up all of the throttle cable linkage. Just need to do some fine adjusting just to make sure we have the proper tension on here. Of course I can now connect this up as well. And then yeah, I'm just going to torque down the 4 nuts, and then it's just going to be a case of reconnecting up all of the vacuum hoses, all of the coolant hoses, if I can remember where everything goes. No, I did take some photos, so yeah, I'll just get everything connected all back up, and then yeah, why can't we try and get this thing started up? Okay, so we have a big problem. As you can see, everything now pretty much connected up. Just got a fuel supply hooked up. Tipped the bottle upside down. I thought that fuel looks like it's emptying pretty quickly. And then what do you know, fuel just pours out the top of the carburetor. It's literally just going straight through. So I'm gonna have to take it back apart. I'm hoping it's just something as simple as like the arm that keeps the float in place. I'm hoping that like that's just came off or something when I've had it upside down. I hope it's like not something major. Frustrating. Okay, so as you can see, carb is now back off the engine, and it was something major. So essentially, I mean, I think I've messed up when I've come to rebuild this, but basically the float needle, the seat, I think it's made out of brass. So the original one, there was probably nothing wrong with it, but because it came in the rebuild kit, I thought I would replace it. Now the original one was seized in, so when it came to removing it, it was very difficult. Ended up having to drill it out. Now it seemed to come out, you know, fairly fine, but then the new one didn't seem to seat in there as good as I would like. But anyway, I just kind of, you know, tapped it all the way in, and it seemed to be relatively okay. But I thought I'm going to have to remove it anyway, because I'm just going to replace it for a new one, just in case there's something wrong with it, or just in case I've, you know, tapped it in too far or whatever. To remove the one that I just installed, again, I had to basically drill it out. But what I've noticed, I don't know if this was kind of there before, but you know, you're not going to be able to see in there. But what I've noticed, oh, you may be able to see actually. See that line at the bottom? That is a crack. So basically, once fuel goes in here, it's just then going to leak down into the rest of the carburetor. So yeah, that's of course no good. And yeah, is this hole a little bit now worn after removing and installing, you know, a couple of sets of seats? I think so. So basically, this is scrap as far as I'm concerned. Of course, you could weld it and repair it, but yeah, I'm not doing that. Long story short, anyway, I actually bought a new carburetor. Say a new carburetor, of course, not a brand new one. It's all in bits now, but I actually bought it with a intake manifold. So it came, the whole lot, the intake manifold, all of the linkage, various different pipe work, of course the whole carburetor assembly, throttle plate and everything. I got all this, I think, like for £80. Like, that's an amazing price. I was seeing, you know, one of these, you know, just the carburetor, or just say this part of the carburetor, for like £200. So yeah, got a very, very good price on this. And of course, as you can see, the float needle seat is in place in this, and it's in good condition, because this, I don't know how long ago it was, but this carburetor actually had a refurbishment. There is some paperwork here. Yeah, I think this had a refurbishment of sorts at some point. So yeah, this probably had all new gaskets, probably had the float needle seat replaced, and yeah, it's probably actually in better condition to what the original one was. So essentially, I'm going to be cleaning this up. I'm going to be swapping that onto here, and then, you know, bolting everything back up to it. And then the rest, that can all be used as spare parts, I guess. Which I guess is very, very handy to have spare parts of, because, yeah, I mean, this thing is 40 years old. So, you know, it's not like you can just get parts like this off the shelf anymore. But yeah, it's kind of a good thing that I did mess up, because I did stumble across all these spare parts, which are more than likely are going to need. Oh, a major thing, actually, something that I didn't have before, which I did mention on the carb rebuild video, was this little piece here. It's a little piece of plastic, and it sits on here. So this is for the big choke valves, and I just put a bit of wire. Whether or not that would have worked, I don't know, possibly, but this is the proper piece that we need. So, and you can't, I did try to buy this new from BMW, would have only been a couple of pounds, but they don't, again, they don't make it anymore. BMW don't supply it. So yeah, major plus point that we have that now as well. So anyway, long story short, I'm rambling. Let's get this installed onto there, get everything back together, and then try and get the carb back on the car. So as you can see, carb is now back on the engine, everything built back up, all of the electrical connectors all back in, all of the coolant hoses plumbed up, all of the vacuum hoses connected up as well as far as I can see. And yeah, for sure, I am definitely glad that I decided to buy another carb, and you know, the fact that I messed up was kind of a good thing, because not only was, of course, this arm missing, after comparing the two carbs, there was quite a few things missing as well. There was a small plastic piece in here, which, you know, made this thing go up and down. I don't really know what it is, but it's basically, it works off the large choke valves. And yeah, that wasn't working as it should. As you can see, it springs back nicely now, so yeah, that's another bonus. I also decided to install the new throttle plate. Of course, cleaned all that up, installed the clean butterfly valves, and that had the valve which I messed up that is set from factory. Of course, I didn't mess this one up because I just left it well alone. I also was able to take the reading from the mixture screws. I think one was like 1.5 turns out, and then another was like 3/4 of a turn. So I just went with that because the carb was rebuilt at some point, so I assume it was probably set up for a factory kind of setup. So yeah, we should be better off with this carb now. So I guess, so let's get our fuel system hooked up and gravity feed it from the ceiling. Let's get this engine fired up. Is it gonna idle though? That's the question. I'm fairly confident it should run, but is it gonna idle? We'll soon find out. Here goes nothing. Kind of idling. It's running! It's actually running. Sounds so sweet. So it's a bit smoky. It's kind of hard to work out if it's exhaust smoke or if it's just condensation, because it doesn't really smell like exhaust fumes. Definitely blowing out something though. Jesus. Oh, it's actually getting up to temperature a bit. Sounds sweet. So, now that the smoke has settled, it's time to come up with a bit of a plan to try and get this thing driving for the first time. So, the main thing we need to do then is, of course, connect up the permanent fuel system. So, I have the original fuel pump, did take the top of it off, gave it a good clean out as much as I could, and it seems to be pumping quite nicely, so I'm fairly confident that will be good to go. Just got a new gasket they've made up, that'll be ready to go on. Need to install this bracket back on the distributor, and then what I'm going to do is get an airline and blow through the fuel pipes back to the tank, and then I'm going to get the rear of the car up in the air and try and locate the drain plug on the fuel tank and drain anything that is inside there, and hopefully have a look at what the condition is like. And I suppose once that has been taken care of, we can then connect the fuel system back up. Of course, the two hoses go to the fuel pipes, and then one will go to the carburetor itself, the inlet. Don't worry, I know these are ancient fuel pipes. I don't plan on keeping these long term. If they can hold fuel for us to get it started up and make sure the fuel system and everything works, that is good. But yeah, don't worry, I'm not going to be leaving these long term because they are more than likely going to be very brittle, and yeah, it's not the best, you know, potentially driving around with these ancient fuel pipes in. So yeah, they will all be getting replaced. This is just to see if we can, you know, hopefully get this thing fired up on its own fuel system. Then after the fuel system is hopefully sorted, we can then look at the transmission. So it's an automatic transmission, so I have some fresh ATF Dextron 2D fluid, which I believe this transmission takes. It's a ZF 3-speed transmission, so this should be the correct stuff. I believe it'll only take 2 litres once you drain it. I'm not going to be doing a full service, by the way. You know, I could do the filters and everything, but I'm just going to drain the fluid, put some fresh in, because we don't know, there could be water in there, there could be anything in there. I have removed the dipstick. It looks very, very clean, so it more than likely did have a service before it was set up, but that was 30 years ago now, so yeah, probably not ideal. But yeah, we're going to drain it, put some fresh fluid in, and then we're also going to do the same to the diff as well, have some fresh diff fluid here as well. So yeah, a lot to get on with, but things are looking good at the moment. So as you can see, we're getting there with the fuel system now. The fuel pump, the mechanical fuel pump, that is now back in place, all new gaskets. We have the hose going to this fuel regulator. I guess it's like a fuel pressure regulator, could be wrong. That is all now plumbed up. Oh, this and the hoses, by the way, they're not brand new, but I think they're from like 2005, something like that. Still need changing, of course, but these came along with the new carb that I bought. So again, massive plus that I had this, because they are, you know, they're newer. So that was all now plumbed up to the carb. We just have to connect this hose. This is for the return. That should go onto there. And we have the inlet. That is there, that will go onto the top of the fuel pump. But right now I'm just going to blow through and hopefully get any crap that's in the lines out, and I'll probably spray some brake cleaner through as well. Spray that all through, that'll all go back into the tank, and then we can drain the tank itself. Okay. There's definitely fuel in there. Oh crap. That just came out of the... Yeah, there's definitely fuel in there. And that just went all over the alternator. Right, we need to get this fuel drained out then. So, at least it should be free now. There shouldn't be any blockages in there. So heading to the rear of the car then. I believe this is the drain plug. No idea what that's going to take there. Is it an Allen in the middle of it there? Or is it a hex bolt? I don't know. I need to get that cleaned up, then try and crack that loose. I did not want to round that. So it rounded pretty quickly. I don't think that's ever been out. I mean, I could drill it out and just put a regular bolt in there, but I really don't want to do that now. I think what I'm going to do, I was going to try and siphon it from the top, take the fuel float unit out. I don't think I'm going to do that though. I think I'm just going to do what I basically just done, blow air through the return line, and then all of the bad fuel should then come through the inlet line. So yeah, we're just going to do that. I'm sure I'll get most of the fuel out, and then I'll put, I don't know, a few gallons of fresh fuel in and flow it through. That stuff looks nasty. So just quickly then, this is the state of the fuel that was in there. That is nasty. Let's get it all out. Okay, so it's time to put some fresh E5 petrol in. Now, I've already put about 6 litres or so in so far, so I'm just going to put about another 10 litres in, and that should be more than enough. As I said, I was fairly confident I got 95% of the old fuel out. I think I'm going to stick a fuel filter on the inlet hose as well, just to see if we have any crud coming through the fuel lines. But yeah, this will be grateful of a good drink after so long. There we go then, we should now have about 15 litres of fresh E5 petrol in there. So we'll put the cap back on, seal that up, and I guess we can head to the front again, connect the fuel lines up, turn the key and see what happens. Okay, so fuel hose is now should be connected up. That is the inlet, and then there is the return. Let's see if the fuel gauge has moved any. Battery is connected back up. Fuel gauge is trying to do something. It's flicking around. But I don't think it's completely happy. I mean, maybe the fact that we have the car up in the air, is that affecting the reading? I don't know. But I guess we'll try and get this thing fired up anyway. So for the first time in 30 years, is this engine going to run off its own fuel supply? Let's find out. Don't think it's pulling fuel through. Oh no, it is. There is fuel getting through now. Jumper pack on. Let's try again. No, there's no fuel getting to the carb. So why is that? I mean, I wouldn't have thought so, but maybe the fact that the car is up in the air at the rear. So I'll take it off the ramps, see if it makes any difference. So it runs, and it runs off its own fuel supply. Get in there. Let me explain what I'd done then. So first of all, of course, I just connected everything back up, all of the fuel lines, went to start it, nothing was happening, it's just cranking over, didn't even try to fire into life at all. And then I was thinking, is there a problem with the fuel sender unit in the boot? This thing right here, now you can see it's wet because it is leaking from these pipes here. They are very perished. I have taken them off because I did try to remove this thing. I didn't try, you know, with any real degree of, you know, I didn't really try too much. I didn't want to break it if it's, you know, not indeed the issue at the moment. But I don't think that is the issue. I don't, you know, it's not an electric fuel pump. It's more of a, I think it's just used to measure the level of the fuel more than anything. All of the work is basically done by this guy down here. This is the mechanical fuel pump, so this should basically draw fuel from the tank, so it goes in through the top of it, then out through the bottom of it. Bit strange because usually on mechanical fuel pumps it goes in through the bottom and then out through the top. This one's opposite, so yeah, there's that. But yeah, as you can see, everything is now connected up. What did I do then? So I wanted to rule out that the fuel pump was bad, so basically I just connected it up to a petrol tank. It started up pretty much straight away, so I knew the fuel pump was fine. And then I was thinking, I wonder if maybe there was just air in the system. So what did I do? Of course, we then had fuel running through all of the fuel lines. I then connected it back up to the fuel pump, connected it back up to the fuel tank, and went to fire it up, and you know, lo and behold, it did just fire into life. So I'm going to do that again now so you can see, of course, and yeah, then we can move forward with this thing. You can hear, literally first turn on the key, fire straight into life. This thing does sound sweet. You can probably hear like a high-pitched whine. I think that's just the carb, because there's no, I think it's just because there's no airbox on there basically. But the smoke has definitely subsided. And then there was some oil and water on the exhaust manifold, that's now burnt off. Yeah, it does sound good. Ready to drain the diff. That actually doesn't look bad. I don't think I've ever seen diff oil as clean as that. That's crazy. This has got to have been changed just before it's left to park up. Still definitely worth changing though, because it could have water in it, and oil being 30 years old probably doesn't perform as well as it should. So now that we know that this thing will run on its own fuel supply, let's get this thing now driving. As you can see, have it up on some ramps. That's because I'm just going to do the last thing that I believe I need to do before attempting to drive this thing, and that is to service the transmission. I say service the transmission, all I'm going to do is empty the old fluid out and put some fresh stuff in. Now when I checked the dipstick, like I said, it looked very, very clean, so I think this probably had a service before it was left to sit up for however long it was, 30 years or so. But yeah, I have already cracked the drain bolt loose, so if we get something to catch the fluid in, yeah, it just takes an Allen key. But yeah, have a look, you can see that's bright red, very, very clean. Apparently you get about 2 litres out of this. Okay, it is a little bit darker than what I thought, but still it's very clean. Alright, let's let this drain. We'll put the drain plug back in and then we'll fill it up. Okay, so it now has finished draining. Got a good 2 litres or so in there. So put the drain plug back in. Okay, so I am just filling it directly down the dipstick tube. Probably the best way of doing things, really. Saves trying to pump it in from the bottom. Pretty sure you have to check the level of the transmission when the engine is running, so I think I'm going to put about 1.5 litres in, and I'll fire it up and then I'll check the level. If the level's fine, I'll just try and drive the thing. It's around 1.5 litres in so far. Right then, let's get it fired up. It's very cold out now, by the way. I think it's about -1. Yeah, definitely need to add more fluid. That looks good now. This is it. Here goes nothing. Going to leave it in neutral for just a minute. Drop it down into drive. Oh, oh, oh! It works, but the brakes don't. It drives, but the brakes definitely don't work. Let's try and go in reverse. Do we have reverse? Yep, we have reverse. Well, the brakes kind of work, just not great. Drive again. Ah, we're driving! We're driving! Ah. Reverse again. We're driving! Ah, it works. It works. We moved. We did it. We actually did it. This car had been sat in a barn for the past 30 years. It had a seized engine. It now runs and it now drives. It's been a success. Hopefully you've all enjoyed this video. Please give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and we'll see you all in that next one.